The story of how I ended up staying in Japan 2 days longer than I expected. It was extra special the last couple of days that we were there. So the night before our flight, everyone started freaking out because
we had been told there was going to be a typhoon.
We just experienced, when we were in Tokyo the night before, it was just a bunch of rain, so we didn't really think that much of it.
The trains were still running at that time, and we were like, whatever.
Also, maybe we didn't really realize what a typhoon was right away. Whoops on that one.
We went to bed and woke up the next morning, and since Jeff and I had a flight at like 1 p.m. that day, we shipped off pretty early. We
crammed in on subway cars that were running locally, which are packed like sardines.
It was total hell because it was rush hour. We're basically just like in a sardine can, like in a mosh pit. It was just like such chaos. I've never been on a subway that crowded before.
And so we had our bike boxes and large backpacks, so probably like 70 pounds worth of stuff. And we were taking up the space of about 10 people with just the two of us. I was just, Michelle and I, we had split off from Terry because his flight was going later.
My flight was until 6 p.m., so I stayed until I basically got kicked out at like 11:30 or so. And I rode my bike to the train station, and then I packed up my bike in my bike bag. As soon as I get off the train, there's huge lines of people waiting everywhere. And what we didn't know was the typhoon actually took out a lot of the power and the power lines for not only the trains, but all of the highways, like the major highways leading to Narita and other places.
There's these dudes with megaphones walking around basically just saying like, sorry, but there's literally no train to get to the airport. You guys are fucked. There's so much traffic on the roads right now that it takes 6 hours for you to get to the airport by car or taxi or any other way. And so we're like, oh God. And we're like an hour away from our flight leaving at this point. The flight is still like working, like on time. Like, it's just the fact that we literally have no way to get there. And so we're just like scrambling.
Michelle and I had just kind of laid down in the one station and gave up, and we're figuring out what we were going to do. We could not get a hold of our airline to change our flights. After an hour or so, we couldn't figure out what to do still, and decided to get a cab there so we could just get a new flight out, because it was already about an hour before our flight, and there was no way to get to the airport. So we took a 6-hour cab ride and had been talking to Terry this whole time, like trying to give him an idea, since his flight was like 6 hours after ours.
Terry, at this point, we talked to really briefly, starts to ride his bike to the airport.
It was around 12:30. My flight was at 6. That means I had to check in, at the latest by 4:30, 4:45. I had to be there. So I was like, you know what? I looked to see how far away it was. It's like a 40-minute ride. I had everything I brought to Japan was with me. I said, fuck it. I just unloaded my bag, built up my bike, put everything, like my computer, my camera gear, in my bag, rode with my bike bag on my back all the way to Narita Airport.
I don't know if you heard, but there's a fucking typhoon. So there's no way to get to the airport, so I'm gonna ride my bike. Hopefully you enjoy the stories of today when I make it to the airport on time. Thank you. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Hi. Riding to the airport because there's no other way to get there. See you in New York.
Well, this was kind of funny too, because we share locations with each other, so we can see on a map where Terry was in relation to us. As we were crawling in a taxi, and he was just getting further and further towards the airport.
It was just like small windy roads.
Very twisted little ride of like 6 hours being hungover and sleep deprived and in pain from trying to lug our bike around and everything.
We literally had to take a stop at the 7-Eleven like 3 hours in. I was like, I need to pee, and I also just need food. Like, I think by the time we got close, like probably like 15 miles outside of Narita, it was like 7 o'clock or so, and Terry had already beaten her. He was like ridden his bicycle because of like the traffic. He had totally like beat us.
And so, yeah, by the time we were sitting in stop traffic at the airport. We're at the last turnoff, as we had been talking to Terry.
And I made pretty good progress. Like, I was definitely going to be on time and was going to make it. It was challenging with all that weight on my back, but it wasn't sketchy or anything. It was just hot and sweaty, and some of the paths and roadways were a little fucked up because of there was like a bunch of down trees and branches everywhere.
I got tired of the walking direction, so I'm on the highway now. Lots of traffic.
Well, basically, I made it to the town of Narita.
Quick update. Lots of traffic, 5 miles from the airport. And I got a flat tire.
Because of that slowdown, I knew I was going to be like 10 to 15 minutes late to that window to check in, and it would have only been an hour before the plane would have taken off. So I basically gave up. I was like, maybe I can walk to the airport. So I started walking, but my bike bag was I was just so tired from carrying the bag all the way there that I couldn't go any further. I was so thirsty. I tried to get some water or anything to drink. All the vending machines were off, and that's super strange for Japan. And I was like, didn't really think about it. I didn't put two and two together. There was a typhoon and these vending machines weren't working. There were a lot of restaurants and businesses. They were all empty. And it just didn't occur to me that they were empty because there was no power. And as the sun went down, I realized the whole town that I was at just went completely dark.
We had all missed our flights, and Michelle and I decided that it made more sense to just go back and find someplace to sleep and be miserable all together with Terry.
Ultimately, we didn't have a way to contact our flight. We didn't have a place to sleep for the night. All the hotels are packed.
I walked back to where I caught a flat, which was this shopping mall. And for some reason, this little shopping mall was the only place that had lights on or power. And luckily for me, there was a couple shitty fast food spots and some restaurants in there.
And we get dinner, and we
just kind of dragged our feet there for 3 or 4 hours until they were closing up on us.
Try and find a place to stay, and no luck. And so we're just all right, fuck it.
I hid a couple of shopping carts across the street just in case we had to walk anywhere further.
All of the taxis completely denied us. Nobody wanted to pick us up. We had I think just because taxis were starting to pick up on the fact that it was a complete shit show to get to the airport. We decided, fuck it, let's walk. So we steal these shopping carts from a shopping center.
We agreed that we were in natural disaster territory and Typhoon rules applied.
Pile on our 6 or 7 bags and bikes basically, and we just start slowly, I think it was by the time we left, it was 10 or 11 o'clock. And we're just walking into pitch black. There's no lights around.
It was 90 degrees, super humid.
All had pretty miserable days, I think, up until that point. And then I think once we started pushing our stuff to the airport, we all just kind of lost it and just actually started having a pretty decent time.
Good Japanese lifestyle. Out here in the streets!
There was no reason to really be upset, or even though we were kind of pissed off, it was just just go with the flow. So we were having kind of fun with it.
Yeah, so we pushed it on some country roads, and then we got on some levee paths along the river. Mostly paved, but then
the sidewalks stopped and it just turned into straight chunky gravel.
So we out here in Japan, soaking it all up. Got Jeff behind me, going on a shopping spree in Narita. Sources say, bring your own cart and you can fill it to the top.
On your top.
Shirts off, 50% off. Ah.
And and we just started like traversing basically like gravel roads we're just like gravel racing with these shopping carts basically loaded down. It was some like crazy like Amazing Race like bullshit like from hell that like none of us expected us to be in. And
Fucking obstacles, dude. Holy shit. 50% off for this, man.
It was also like perfectly clear night with a full moon. So you could still kind of see everything, didn't need lights or anything. So it's kind of relaxing in a way, as much as it was also very physically exhausting.
5 miles later, and
We're still pushing these carts, and the carts had like the advertisement for the mall on the front.
Holy shit. Proper 360. Should you say?
Beautiful. 10 out of 10.
So we were being really cautious, and we snuck behind this security guard who was like guarding a parking garage, and they had like real airport luggage carts there.
And so we played a little switcheroo, grabbed the airport shopping carts, and then, smooth sailing from there.
yeah, we finally get there at like 1 a.m. or so, and it's just like a really solemn scene where everyone is just sleeping on the floor.
And we found a cozy spot by some trash cans, and got some cardboard, and got like 2 or 3 hours of sleep, and it felt great.
So yeah, woke up just completely drained and exhausted.
Got some food, and
We read something the next day that there was 13,000 people that got stranded at Narita because of this typhoon.
We looked for our next option of where to stay. So everyone had flights, but they weren't for a whole nother day.
And I was approached by some people that were interviewing for this Japanese television show. So I think they just kind of heckled people to interview. I was like, whatever, this will be funny. I'll laugh about it later. Not very many people see it.
Today's day 20. We were supposed to leave yesterday, but we couldn't get to the airport. And then we walked the last 5 miles to here, some our bags and shopping.
Come to realize that it's a very popular show in Japan. So a lot of friends we had made and the friends I had beforehand saw it when it was released.
Called Aeon Mall. It was 5 miles west of here, I think. So we had shopping carts from the mall that we took.
And then once that happened, remembered that this crazy experience we had getting to the airport. So they were trying to talk to us about that. There was some footage on, they asked me if it was okay, about how the shopping mall was okay with us taking the shopping carts. And I was like, yeah.
the only place I could find was like a 30-minute train ride outside from the airport. And when we got there, we realized, oh, this is a love hotel. This is completely you can rent it pay by the hour, and there's lube by the bed. It was really the craziest hotel I've been in my life. But ultimately, we just were just so wrecked. We just went to bed, got up the next morning, and got some hash browns and got to the airport again, and finally made our flight. And it was the longest 2 days of my life, I think. And but yeah, we finally made it back, so it was great. It was great.
Yeah, it was great. That's perfect. Thank you. I haven't done one of these story times before, and I thought, it would be cool to have special guests like Jeff and Michelle give their experience, their talk to you guys as well. I was in Japan for a little over 2 weeks, and there were a ton of great memories made and good things that happened while we were in Japan. But I seem to tell that story the most. And I don't know if it's because it's the most recent thing that happened to me while I was there. I think it's because it was just a pretty crazy adventure. So thank you very much. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
So we bring to a close the story of rigid control through the unceasing research and the highest quality.